Hello everyone. Hello everyone, welcome to ULO Education. So today we are going to start our writing task 1, that is a graph. As you know, in the writing task 1, we are asked to describe or to illustrate any given chart or any bar graph, can be line graph, can be any diagram picture. So today we are going to do writing task 1. So here is the task. Graph below shows the quantities of goods transported in UK between 1974 and 2002 by four different modes of transportation. As you can see in this line graph, there are four colors and four type of lines that depict four means of transportation. Here, blue one dotted line represent the road transportation, and this pink one water, green one rail, and the purple one represent the pipelines. So this quantity is given in million tons. So quantity is given in the million tons. 0 million tons to 20 million tons, 40 million tons, and up to 120 million tons. And here in the horizontal axis, we are given with the dates. We can say years from 1974 to 2002. So we have to summarize the information given in the chart by writing the figures and compare the figures with each other. So in this line chart, we can compare the information to one another. And so here we are going to write an introduction, a perfect introduction for this task, that the amount of goods comes from the quantities of goods. We can write quantities to amount of goods transported by. Transported remains the same by four different modes of transport. By four different modes of transport, namely, we will write the name along with the modes of transport here. We will include the name like namely road, water, rail, and pipeline in UK over a 20-year period, 28 years period. That means from 1974 to 2002 are 28 years. Over a 28 years period from 1974 to 2002, it is shown in the line graph. So I have started with the amount of goods, not with the line graph. The quantity is expressed in million tons. So here we have given the, we can say we have given the quantity, we can say unit of the quantity given. Unit is million tons. The amount of goods transported by four different modes of transport, namely road, water, rail, and pipeline in UK over a 28-year period from 1974 and 2002 is shown in the line graph. The quantity is expressed or in here right represented, expressed or represented in million tons. So here I have just used the, I think, same words. I have changed only two words, but I have changed the statement. And in this, I have not started the statement with line graph. I started with the amount of words, and at last I have mentioned this is the line graph. You can write like this also. It is not compulsory or mandatory to write or start it from the line graph, the bar graph. So we can bring variations also. We can say according to the topic. So let's analyze the graph first. So in this graph, you can see the road transport was very popular at that time because the we can see quantity or amount of goods transported by road is started from 60 to 80, मतलब कि it is 70 million tons and it reached to about 100 million ton at the end of the period at in the 2002, and it shows some fluctuations only from 1974 to 1982. First it was increased and then decreased and almost remained same for the few years. And after this, in the 1994 to 2002, it has a sharp increase, we can say. So we will talk about water transport. It started from 40 million tons, reached up to 60 million tons toward the end of 1982, and it remained stable for a few years and then decreased from 1994 to 1998 and then increased to 2002. If we will say that these two, road transportation or we can say water transportation, shows an upward trend because from 1974 to 2002 they increased. If we will talk about rail transport, the mode of transport which was used to transfer the quantity of goods, so it was also started from 40 million tons and then show a gradual decrease or reduce from 1978 to 1998. Then it reached to its original value. It was about 40 million tons. And the last one, the pipeline. The pipeline started from 5 million tons approximately and then reached to 22 or we can say 25 million tons, then remained stable up to 1994. Then again, it remained 20 million tons. When we can say that from 1974 to 2002, it showed an increase. So, in overall, what we are going to write, we'll consider the highest and the lowest value. The highest value is depicted by the road transport, and the lowest was shown by pipeline. So, here we are going to write overall. Overall, the highest amount of goods was transported via road. So you can write by road, we can write via road. That is the same. That is, we can say the route is taken by a road. Overall, the highest amount of goods was transported via road, whereas pipeline remained at least commonly used as least commonly used mode of transportation over the entire period. We have seen that of all the three, road, water, and rail, the pipeline remained at least. That means that the less number of we can say goods were transported by the pipeline route. So the first line we will write the highest amount and the lowest amount. The highest amount of goods was transported by a, whereas the pipeline remained at least commonly used mode of transportation over the entire period. Entire period is from 1974 to 2002. Although there were some fluctuation, transport by road, water, and pipeline. There are some fluctuation in these three, water, road, and pipeline. Then they show the upward trend. We can say they increased from 1974 to 2002. Upward trend, while or whereas we can see we can use any word, transportation via rail. These three we have discussed that some fluctuations are there, but they show the upward trend or we can say they increased. And And if we talk about rail reduced for a while. That means declined for a while. The quantity decreased for few years and for a reduced for a while before returning to the same level. That means after reducing, it also come to the same level. It came to the same level by the end of 2002. So this is our overall, in which we have discussed about the highest amount and the least amount and the two or sorry the trends, that upward trend is there, downward trend is there. We have discussed all this in the overall. Now we will start our task. We will represent the numbers and figures now in 1974. That is, we will start from initial year. Sorry, the initial year is 1974. So in 1974, around 70 million. See, I have made two groups here. First group I have made for lowest and highest. That means the water and pipeline. And the second group made by these two, rail and water transport. So in the first paragraph, I will write about road and pipeline. So in 1974, around 70 million tons of goods were transported by road, and this quantity, 70 million, almost or around, about, you can write any word, about 70 million, almost, approximately, that words you can use here. Around 70 million tons of goods were transported by road, and this quantity rose to about 100 million tons toward the end of the period. That means in the 2002, it showed an increase. That means the rose word we have used for increase. Quantity rose to about 100 million tons toward the end of the period. Then we will discuss about pipeline. Pipeline transported 5 million. We will not start here with um, year. We have started with now quantity. So we have to show the variation in this task. You wanted your desired band score. So we can say bring the variation in the sentences. Start of the sentence. So we should change. We should not always write year firstly. So pipeline transported 5 million tons of goods in 1974. This figure increased steadily, slowly over the years, and in 2002, about 20 million tons of goods were transported using this means. That means there is a steady increase in all the years, and at the end of the period in 2002, it reached up to 40 million tons. Sorry, 20 million tons. Next, we will talk about water and railways. Both water and railways transported about 40 million tons of food. That means they have a common starting point. That means from 40 million tons. Both are showing the same initial amount of goods. So both water and railways transported about. Here we brought the similarity. Both water and railways transported about 40 million tons of goods in 1974, and the quantity remained more or less same over the next 4 years. That means next 4 years we say. After that, afterwards, here I have used a connector afterwards. Transportation by water and rails. We have depicted the, we can say, initial quantities here, but we gonna extend this because to complete our word limit, we have to write at least 150 words. So we will just finish it initial and final values, then we can't complete our word limit. So in this way, in order to increase our word limit, we have described this water and railway in detail. But between years also, from like 1998, 1994, all years we have mentioned here. Afterward, transportation of water, sorry, by water ways rose, whereas transportation by railways declined. This earlier we also have discussed about this, that water transport, the quantity of goods transported by water showed an upward trend, but the railways showed the downward trend. It's a decline for few years. So railways declined during the period from 1986 to 1994. Waterways transported around 60 million tons of goods. This quantity declined to around 50 million tons in 1998. Till 1994, it was 60 million tons of goods, and this decreased to 50 million tons in 1998, and then rose to about 65 million tons for the next 4 years. By contrast, that means opposite to this, quantity of transportation by rail declined to 30 million tons in 1984, showed the fluctuation until 1998 before rising again. That means fluctuations are there, and then it rises to 40 million tons in 2002. Here, one thing to be noted, that it started from the same point and reached to the same point. That means it remained stable for these many years. So this is our task. I will describe it again. I will read it complete for you. The amount of goods transported by 4 different modes of transport, namely water, rail, road, and pipeline in the UK. We have to mention the country here. Over a 28-year period from 1974 to 2002 is shown in the line graph. Also, you can write the same, start from the line graph. The line graph compares the amount of goods transported by 4 different means of transport, namely this in UK from 1974 to 2002. The quantity is expressed or represented in million tons. Overall, the highest amount of goods was transported by a road, whereas pipeline remained the least commonly used mode of transportation over the entire period. Although there were some fluctuations, transport by road, water, and pipeline showed an upward trend, whereas transportation via rail reduced for a while before returning to the same level. In 1974, around 70 million tons of goods were transported by a road, and this quantity rose to 100 million tons toward the end of the period. Pipeline transported 5 million tons of goods in 1974. This figure increased steadily over the years, and in 2002, about 20 million tons of goods were transported using this means. Next, we will talk about water and railways. Both water and railways transported about 40 million tons of goods in 1974, and that quantity remained more or less the same over the next 4 years. Afterwards, transportation of water rose, whereas transportation by rails declined. So this is the opposite trend, we can say. During the period from 1986 to 1994, waterways transported around 60 million tons of goods, and it reduced to 50 million tons in 1998, and then again rose to 65 million tons over the next 4 years. In contrast or by contrast, quantity of transportation by rail declined 30 million tons in 1984 and showed fluctuation until 1998 before rising again. Again, why we have used again word? Because the quantity was same earlier. Again to 40 million tons in 2000. To by this we can complete our task in 150 word also. And I think the word used are not so complicated. So only we have to bring the variation. There is no necessity to use the complex vocabulary, but it depends upon the variations of it. And if you don't know how to use any word in a sentence, please don't try to use that. Or practice more and more by this type of task, line graph. So you should try at least two tasks similar to this if you want to attain a proficiency in writing task one line. All the best.